Hello and welcome back to 27 Crows Radio. I'm your host, Brie Fauché, and today my guest is science fiction and space opera author and journalist, Jon Del Arroz. He routinely takes on SJWs in the sci-fi, fantasy, infested fiction world, and goes head-to-head with those who push diversity quotas and accusations of racism against authors. This is his second appearance on my YouTube channel, but his first appearance on my podcast. He joins me today to tell me about his recent experience with some SJWs that won't stop shrieking over his articles exposing their anti-male and pro-PC agenda. Welcome to the podcast, Jon.
Hi, Brie. It's great to be back with you again.
It's great to have you back on. I enjoyed the last time. So I wanted to hear a little bit about what you've been working on. You had a book recently released?
Yeah, my last book was for Steam and Country. It came out in June. I think that's when we talked last, was right before that was coming out. I'm going to be having a novella come out in about a week, which is actually pretty good timing. It's called The Gravity of the Game. It is a novella about, it's kind of like a Field of Dreams in space, baseball for the future. And I don't know, as of last night, I don't know if baseball is going to have a future. I know this isn't what we came here to talk about.
I don't know about football, maybe baseball, who knows?
Well, last night, the first baseball player to start disrespecting the national anthem came out. I was actually at the game.
Oh, you're kidding me. Oh, man.
No. I periscoped about it. I periscoped myself walking to the ticket office, and I said, you know what? This is going to be the first time in my life I don't have season tickets. If you don't put a stop to this, I'm not taking my family to these events where they're going to start politicize and acting badly on the field, because these are my kids' heroes. I'm just not doing it.
I don't blame you. It sets a bad precedent for the kids, and it ruins the fun of it when they get politics involved in everything. And that's how they kind of ruined fiction, was they started politicizing it. One thing I wanted to hear about that you told me recently was you got the opportunity to meet Andrew Breitbart, and he gave you some advice. Can you share that with my listeners?
Yeah, this is back in 2009. I got the chance to listen to him speak. And I actually afterwards, a few of my buddies and him went out to beers, and he started talking about entertainment being something important and education being something important, and how we on the right have just traditionally ignored both of these venues for decades. And what's happened is they've gotten such a monopoly that it's shut everybody out who had any dissenting opinion in these fields. And what we need is more people producing content, more people being teachers, more people being entertainers who are on our side, who don't hate us, to show the way and to show that it's not going to be a painful process for people who want to come down the line and try to be in these fields for them to rise up later. And I think we're starting to see just that happen.
And you're kind of going through that right now with it being a painful process, because you exposed some of this anti-male activity going on for some of these writers, a part of SFWA, correct?
Yeah, the shorthand is SFWA. It's the Science Fiction Writers of America. And you have to have a certain amount of sales in pro rates, which they define as 6 cents a word or higher. So what I did was I looked for magazines that have a monthly publication schedule, that have pro rates publishings that are approved by them. And I just thought of everyone, I looked at everyone I could think of that has those criteria and takes submissions. And I totaled them all up, and I looked and saw that if you're a female, one, you have a 16% better chance of getting published just on that, just 1-to-1. But also on the flip side, when I talked to these editors, they said that males are submitting a lot more than females are submitting. I had 3 separate editors tell me this. Of course, most won't talk to me. Most of these fiction outlets either berate me from their professional accounts or block me, or both. But the ones that do, there's still some people out there who are reasonable, and they'll talk, and I appreciate them. And yes, males submit far more than females. And I kind of did the math based on a website called Submission Grinder, with some help from another author who helped me out on this. And I determined that it was about 4-to-1 males to females who were submitting. And on the flip side, females were getting published greater than males. So when you break it down from the submissions and your odds of actually getting accepted, all else being equal, as a male or female, as a female, your odds of getting accepted are about 3 times as high as it is if you're a male. And that's pretty disconcerting.
And you get even more of a uptick if you're like a person of color or if you're disabled, right?
Yeah, I didn't go into that because to go into somebody's race and all that, it just took too much time. And I don't get paid for my journalism. I do it I just do what I'm interested in terms of what I do on my blog. And my fiction's really the only way I get compensated for that. So, I only had a little bit of time, and I couldn't go into the race because you have to go way into looking up people's pictures, trying to figure out their backgrounds. It's a lot more than just seeing, this is Bree, she's a female, so I didn't go into that. But just on my cursory observation, out of about 1,000 stories, there weren't all that many white males being published. So if you're male, you're already at the disadvantage. But if you're white, there's maybe 10 or 20 people out there who even have the shot. And I think they were kind of like the pre-approved crowd. So, if you're a white male, you just can't submit to these magazines at all.
That's disheartening, because a lot of the best science fiction I read back in the it's back from the early 90s when the industry was white male heavy. And I haven't been able to really get into a lot of material these days coming from out of the publishing houses. Most of the good stuff has been coming from indie publishers or self-published authors.
Yeah, and I think that's intentional as well. So, I mean, when you signal that you're going to be giving people preferential treatment because of their identity politics, naturally, the next thing that happens is all of these people put the identity politics in their stories also, because they know if the editors like them for that, they're going to definitely like their story that incorporates even more of that. And so we see these fiction magazines and traditional publishing outlets with their novels just laden with identity politics, and it's not fun to read. So why would you read something that is, a genre of people going out on spaceships and shooting ray guns, which is fun by definition and not real by definition, if that's what you're going to get?
Now, when you wrote this article, you got quite a bit of pushback. Can you tell me a little about that?
Yeah, I started looking into this because there's this magazine called Uncanny Magazine, and what happens is they every 6 months, a year or something like that, put out a Kickstarter saying, women destroy science fiction. Yes, it's actually called Destroy Science Fiction, believe it or not, which is ironically kind of what this has done over the last couple of decades as it's eroded its readership. But they do this, and they say they're going to bring attention to only women authors in this issue. Next issue is only minority authors. The one they just recently ran, as you alluded to, is disabled people only were published in this one, whatever that means. I have heartburn. Is that a disability?
Yeah, I've got back problems. Do I count? Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, it just opens a can of worms that is totally unnecessary. So I asked them when they were going to do a men-only one because, fair is fair. And they berated me and blocked me. And so I saw another podcast going, because one of these pops up a month. It's not an unusual thing. It's not like this is a one-time women celebrating fiction, then there's some men celebrating fiction. People are just having fun with it and making a, sort of battle of the sexes sort of thing. I mean, that'd be kind of fun if we were allowed to have fun anymore.
Seriously.
It is pure identity politics all the time. And so I saw another podcast doing it, and I asked the same question, and they took to their account and made a "your mom" joke about me.
Because that's so mature.
Got all their readers to harass me. Yeah. I mean, we're supposed to be adults and professionals, right? So and once I saw that, I said, I'm gonna test this out. And I sent it to the president of the Science Fiction Writers of America, or SFWA, as we've talked about. And I said, this is really disconcerting. I mean, you should let your members know about this. Well, she fired back immediately, trolling me and calling it alt numbers. And this is kind of a standard SJW
She didn't even
tactic.
ask you for your results. She just immediately assumed you were wrong, correct?
My results were on the blog, but if she has different numbers, I would love to have those, because I would love to, if I want to publish as accurate results as possible on my blog. So if she wants to give me something different, I mean, I'd be happy to take a look at that. But that's not what they do. They just criticize you and say you're wrong, say everything you do is wrong. I just got a troll today saying they were going to unsubscribe to somebody's YouTube channel because they quoted me and I'm an unreliable source. Well, the source that he was quoting of me was just a screenshot. I mean, it's something you can look at. I mean, they just try to discredit a person and an individual. It's just about hating people. And so she did that. And unfortunately, then she took to the SFWA proper Twitter account and retweeted one of her tweets trying to discredit me. taking her personal vendetta over this article, I don't know why it's personal, to this next level. And what's interesting is I know a lot of your readers listen to or watch or read Vox Day. Vox Day actually kind of started his fight on this. If anybody's read SJW's Always Lie, from when they attacked him, they were going after him hard, and he actually went to their author's Twitter account, which is a lesser Twitter account they use to promote some of their authors, and took it, right or wrong, took that there, and they removed him from the club because he used that Twitter account to blast somebody. Well, now the president's using their official business Twitter account to blast an independent author. I mean, either they represent the science fiction writers of America or they don't. And I think it's pretty clear where they stand.
Well, when you use the account for the right narrative, it's completely different, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was the excuse they used. But some rules are more equal than others, right?
Goodness. So you've been doing a lot of your reporting on Periscope. Tell me a little about that.
I was doing almost everything on my blog originally, but I've got pretty bad tendonitis in both my wrists. I'm actually a classical pianist. I play for church every weekend.
Talented man of multiple talents.
Thanks. And I write every day about 2,000-3,000 words for fiction and the blog, which I still do write a blog almost every day. But I was getting to the point where I was doing 2-3 a day because I've noticed people, again, like Vox Day, do very successfully by posting multiple blogs a day. And that is the key to the content game, as I'm sure you're aware, just having content every day and as much as possible. The more you make it a habit for somebody to see something, the more they have opportunity to see something, the more subscribers and the more people that you'll get coming to you. People want regular quantity. So I was looking at everybody doing YouTube videos and Periscopes and being kind of successful with that. There's you and Tara McCarthy.
Well, I haven't tried Periscope yet. I thought about it. I'm not so comfortable with doing live, but I want to, ever since YouTube took away my live streaming, I want to try it again, so I might try Periscope.
Cool. Well, I'll subscribe to you.
Cool.
Yeah. And then, Vox and Mike Cernovich do very well on Periscope, and I watch Scott Adams pretty regularly also. And so I thought, you know what, I'll just start talking about some of my blog topics on Periscope. I think my first one that kind of got a little bigger was my review of The Orville, which is a science fiction show on Fox. It's Seth MacFarlane, who is a extreme SJW type himself, but he seems to have done a TV show that is kind of in the spirit of old Star Trek, where it's not in your face and it's just kind of fun. And a lot of people watch that. So I thought, you know what, if people are going to tune in for this, I'll just do one every day. And I started doing that. And last week, most people here probably have seen it at this point. I think it's gotten over 7,000 or 8,000 views since I last looked, which is a couple days ago. But I found a screenshot of a bunch of lefty writers in comics who were conspiring to basically frame a reviewer named who goes under Diversity in Comics on YouTube, very popular, for a crime. Like they were trying to goad him into violence at conventions in order to get him banned from conventions. Now, I'm pretty sure what they're doing is illegal in this.
A little bit.
Yeah. But it blew up pretty big. And with all the problems that the comic industry has been having, I mean, people are all over this. This has hit the mainstream media again. And it seems there seems to be a trend here. The SJWs go way too far over the line, and then the mainstream media picks it up, and people start to get outraged. And I think what we're seeing now in sports this weekend too, because this all seems to be coming to an even bigger head at the same time. I think the SJWs got a bit moralized after the whole Charlottesville thing. They thought, we're on the upfront. We're gonna go attack all the Nazis out. Yeah, and they started thinking they could go a little further, and so they pushed harder in comics again, even though they were starting to back off on that for a sec. They're pushing harder in science fiction. They're pushing harder in sports now. So every aspect of entertainment, you cannot just go and just hang out and have a minute away from the news. You have to get bombarded by this toxic politics at all times. And that is their end goal, because they want to create chaos and create violence everywhere. So this all happened this weekend, and I think the president really hit on a chord here, where we've all been sitting here thinking, you know what, the NFL is being disgusting in the way that they're handling this, and these players who are making millions and millions of dollars, pretending like they're some oppressed victims in the middle of the game. I mean, it's not like they're going out on YouTube and making their own expressions on their own time. It's like if I went to work and just started trashing my work, I mean, I'd get fired immediately.
And if you got paid a multi-million-dollar salary while you did it, because you're so oppressed, you make millions of dollars.
It's a big different thing, and it is also just throwing it in our faces while we're trying to get away from that. The whole point of
get away from politics, get away from the grind,
to have fun and cheer for your team and just chill. That is the entire point. And so I think they pushed way too far, and now we're starting to see a push back again, and we're seeing the results. These institutions that allow this, and if you allow an SJW into your institution and allow them to start having power, it just destroys the institution completely. You'll lose all of your audience because people don't want to deal with it.
Speaking of going too far, they kind of went a little too far with you, didn't they? I saw on Twitter this week they went after your family for this article you wrote exposing how anti-male these writing podcasts were.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out whether this was due to my comics journalism or from that, but actually I looked at the timing of it, and the person who started coming after me from the science fiction article, believe it or not. So what happened recently was, as I said, the president of SIFWA went kind of off the deep end in terms of going after me over this, and I tried to repair it because I'm make no secret that I'm very advocate of Christianity, and I try to project that myself. And so part of what I like to do is try to make an offer of alms and forgiveness always, because I think that's important, and I think we are losing the opportunity to have dialogue with other people in this country in this time. And so I always try to do this. And so I emailed her, week after, and I was like, you know what, why don't you come on my YouTube channel and we'll talk about writing in RPGs. And I thought, you know what, can you imagine the visual this would make? I mean, she's obviously extreme left, and she obviously doesn't like me, which is fine. I mean, yeah, I could even talk to a reporter or whatever if they didn't like me. I mean, that's fine too. But they can't, unfortunately. So I said it would have just been crazy. I mean, her people would have all tuned in, my people would have all tuned in, because people would have been like, holy crap, two sides are talking like normal human beings and having a discussion
like
about
adults.
Not politics. So that was my grand vision, right? Of course, it didn't work out that way. So she actually then threatened to sue me if I ever contacted her again.
Because contacting is so illegal, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a joke by that.
What's she gonna sue for? What would the charge be?
Right? So I'm like, okay, she wants to declare war on me, great. So I started making memes about her, because that's what you do. And memes are so much more effective than the little whiny crap. And she got really upset with the memes, because I called SIFWA a Mean Girls Club, and what I did is I took the Mean Girls stuff. I photoshopped the SIFWA logo on there. I did a really terrible Photoshop. I just threw her face on there too. I just went into MS Paint real quick and I just threw it up there. And she really, she threatened to sue me, and I didn't. Oh my gosh, it escalated things. No way. So
joke.
Ridiculous. But then she went on Facebook, and somebody who's a mutual friend sent me the information on this, and she called me a serial harasser of women. This is how they do things too. They call everybody a harasser, even while they're trying to get their friends to harass you.
You're the bully every time.
Yeah.
Like they'll attack you, and oh my God, you're fighting back, you terrible person.
I was going to get her free advertising on my YouTube. I mean, it's not. That was my thought. So that's terrible. Whatever. But yeah, so she called me a serial harasser of women and urged people to defriend me and urged people to ignore / block me. And what that did was, I don't know what she did behind the scenes, but several people in the science fiction industry in SIFWA started reposting the similar things, urging people to do the same thing to me. And so it started to escalate, and then people started harassing me on my Facebook. People started harassing me on Twitter. And I get a lot of hate comments to my blog. If I leave them up, I'm pretty free speech. I should probably not be pro free speech at this point, but I leave it up so people can see just kind of the targeting I get pretty regularly. And from this, as it escalated here and people just started going on and on, I guess they got really aggressive and they started posting information about my children. And some guy came on and he said, "You've inspired me to independent journalism. Let me ask you about your child," and started listing medical stuff about my kid. And I'm like, whoa.
Isn't that like doctor-patient confidentiality? Like there's certain medical information you can't post online? My goodness. One would think.
The reason he found it, and he bragged about this on Twitter later, that saying it was public information, blah, 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 is we do charity events because of some a condition my kid has. And so my name is on charity events, and he looked it up and looked up my kid, and then took it back to me. It's there, but he did it to show me he's looking up my kid. I mean, this is what he did, and that's disgusting.
You're vulnerable, so to speak.
Right. And what it's just way too over the line. So I've noted that Sifwa and Kat Rambo have not gone on and disavowed this behavior. I have mentioned it to her. I said, you know what, this is, whatever you think, this is too far. You are encouraging your people to come and harass me like this and harass my family like this. And it's too far. And I've yet to get them to disavow this or to say to their followers, knock it off. We need to de-escalate this. And that's the whole deal. I mean, they are unwilling to de-escalate. They just have to double down. And I think there's a book coming out. It's not by me, but SJWs always double down, and they really always do. I mean, even in situations where it's so far over the line, it's disgusting. So it was a rough week in that regard. But on the flip side, I've just been getting so many more followers over my journalism. They're really, the amount of new friends I make way outweighs the amount of trolls that I make, for sure.
Yeah, that's how people meet these days. That's how I met a lot of my friends after I went after these SJWs in the fiction world. It's like, SJWs are gunning for me. Good, you're doing something right. Good man, let's be friends.
Yeah, I saw your YouTube channel through another writer. Actually, I'm going to plug him, actually. His name's Justin Knight, and he'll be coming out with a book pretty shortly. I think it's called Praxis, so look for that. And he would retweet you periodically and your work for against SJWs and how they're destroying culture like this. And I was like, oh, great. And I started following you because of that. So it is a nice little thing. And what's great is the people who are friendly here are so loyal. It's a very different world. The people who follow me and the people who buy my books are so loyal. Don't worry about if you're thinking about it and you're thinking about coming out of the closet. This is really coming out of the closet now, right? If you're thinking about coming out of the closet, the people who are behind me now and behind Bree now, they're such loyal people. They'll do anything, and I would do anything for Bree. If Bree's in trouble, if somebody's hurting her, I would do anything for her. And that's the kind of loyalty that this inspires, and it's because we're good people with good values. And these are the kind of fans you want. So don't worry about it, I guess, is the message at the end of the day.
Exactly, because they can try to come after you. They can try to come after your brand, but the people who have your back that I've experienced on this side of the fence really have your back.
Yeah.
So I understand they also tried to go after your wife and her Etsy account?
Yeah, she started getting some trolls popping up on our Etsy account, and I think she started getting some hate reviews starting there, and so she just shut it down. My wife doesn't want to be a public figure or anything like that. She's a private person, and she just wants to. She likes making jewelry. She makes beautiful jewelry, by the way. It's really a shame, but yeah, she doesn't want to deal with that.
I don't blame her, and it's just so disgusting that they would go after your family like this. If I have a beef with someone, I have a beef with someone, but I would never go after loved ones. But that's how they try to shut people up these days. I mean, if you look at people, regardless of what anyone might think of various people, like Richard Spencer, they went after his mother. That's how they attack people these days, to try to shut them down, as they go after your family and threaten them. And honestly, it's terrifying. And that's one of the big risks, like when people get doxxed, is they call your spouse's company, or they call whoever owns the neighborhood to see if they can't get you evicted from wherever you live. It's frightening. It's absolutely terrifying. And then they fight for these athletes who want to take a knee. They'll fight for them in their
Right.
free speech, but go light a tiki torch at a rally and get doxxed and everybody will say, good, destroy their life.
Right. I have this, actually just this morning, I've got this rabid atheist blogger guy who's an extreme SJW who's got, almost 200,000 followers on his Twitter. And he's just writing, I mean, this is probably his second or third blog about me. And I'm like, I'm just a guy on the internet. And he's
Haters make you famous.
why do you care? I don't hold any power. I'm not hiring and firing people in the industry. I'm doing it just by myself and just trying to get a following out here for my fiction and for my journalism. And it's very bizarre. I mean, it used to be the left in the 60s and 70s used to at least pretend they were talking about institutions and corporations and things like that. Now we're the ones fighting the corporations, and now we're the ones saying, let's be nonviolent. It's an interesting turn for sure.
It's ironic. I mean, when you look at them back then, they were the ones who were all fighting for free speech and more open-mindedness. And now the tables have turned, the pendulum swings the other way, and we're the ones saying, hold up, weren't you guys the ones who were wanting free speech? Oh, I get it. It's free speech when it's you talking now. It's like all of a sudden it starts to make sense.
But I think we're on a
some free speech is more equal than others, I guess, yeah.
I think we really, with independent publishing, with YouTube, with the ability to just make our own platforms, we really are changing the landscape. And the reason they're so afraid now more than ever, and the reason that this is getting so nasty on their parts, is that they can't stop us. So they see that they tried to blackball us from the industry, and the blackballing is not working because we can just publish on Amazon. They saw that they could try to discredit us, call us names, call us liar, call us, harassers. They always go to that. They go lie, harass. They've got basically the same three terms in the same playbook with everybody they go with. That didn't work either. So so now we'll try to get you fired at your work, or we'll try to go after your family. So that's the last desperation attempt to shut us up. And the only thing we can do is just not give in to that and ignore it and move on and press forward.
Yeah, it can be difficult to press forward when it seems like so many people are against you, but I try to give white pills to everybody now and again. There are a lot of people on our side. There are a lot of... I know a lot of people probably consider this word to be demeaning, but the term normies, more normies are waking up to these issues. I used to be asleep to them as well. I was just walking around, living my everyday life, and I find that when people have a personal experience with these SJWs, that's when they wake up to what's really going on. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. I had no idea what was going on until, as we discussed last time I was on your podcast, I got removed from speaking at a local convention. I was kind of just hanging around these crowds. I don't know that I was ever in the in crowd, because I don't think you can be as a male, and I don't think unless you got some strange, weird sexual proclivities or something like that. But I always listened to their side, because all I heard was what they were saying, and all I heard was, Gamergate people are bad, Gamergate people are bad, Gamergate people are bad, and over and over and over and over. And all I heard was Vox Day is the devil. The sad puppies are just terrible people. They make people cry. And I wouldn't say that I totally bought into that, but it did buy me enough silence to where I'm like, okay, I don't know that I want to get involved, because sounds like there's something bad going on this side. And I think the critical mass I started talking to a couple of the sad puppies, which in science fiction, if you don't know about this, they've been locking out conservative authors out of awards for several years, and they've just been pushing completely political agenda driven fiction, and
really bad political agenda driven fiction too.
It's rough. They had a bad story. You can look it up, and I think it's just posted for free online. Win one. It's called "If You Were a Dinosaur, My Love," and it's pontificating like some weird dinosaur bestiality. It's bizarre. But this is award-winning brave fiction these days. So they shut everybody out, and they blamed the conservatives for saying how bad it was. They blamed the people who were being shut out, the victims, and called them the troublemakers, like they do in every playbook. And so I eventually just started talking to a couple of them, because I'm like, I like to work things out. Like I mentioned, I wanted to talk to Kat Rambo. I tried to figure it out with the president of SIFWA. And unfortunately, she went off the rails. Well, when I wanted to talk and ask questions to Brad Torgerson, who was kind of leading the puppies at the time, he was just an open guy who just would chat, and he'd tell me what was going on, and he had no qualms about it. And I respect that. I mean, I think having the ability to have a dialogue is something that is unique to our side, and that is part of what's opening people's eyes.
Well, I want to say thank you for being such a strong warrior for our side in literature out there, because it is really difficult to put your face out there and fight these people and take them head on when they go after you personally. So thank you for being willing to take the social bullets and doing that. And why don't you take this opportunity to tell everybody where to find your work?
Thanks, everybody. Or thanks, Bree, and everybody who's watching. I am Jon Del Arroz. My blog is delarroz.com. It's Delarroz. It's impossible to spell, I know, I'm sorry. But there's nobody else who has my name out there, so it works out. I'm also on Twitter, so you can find me there. And on Amazon, my big book that most people are loving these days is called For Steam and Country. It's just a fun steampunk fantasy adventure. No politics. When I talk about the NFL and all that, I don't want to put politics into the entertainment. I just want people to have an escape and have some fun. And my next book will be coming out soon. It's a novella about baseball in the future. It's called The Gravity of the Game, and so look for that soon.
I like that title, Gravity of the Game. That's unique.
Thanks.
Well, thank you everyone for tuning in. There is a video version of this podcast up on my website as well as my YouTube channel. Take care, and I'll speak to you all soon. Bye.